What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here. If you're a fan of cell phones, it's hard to go anywhere without hearing about the giant Galaxy Note. This guy is brand new for AT&T, but its cousin, the European version, has been with us since IFA a few months ago. So I wanted to put the two head-to-head, let you know what the differences are as you decide whether or not it's worth your while to import one or buy one from your local store. Let's go ahead and get started. So I've done a full review on the European Galaxy Note, and I've done a video 1 month later after using it for a solid 4 weeks. So you'll know that the Galaxy Note, if you watch those videos, is probably my favorite phone on the market, and arguably one of my favorite phones of the past 12 months. I love its giant form factor. Admittedly, it's not for everyone, but for me and my uses, it's really been a perfect fit. Then enter this guy right here, the AT&T variant, which brought a lot of different things to the table. So I wanted to put them head to head. I've been using the AT&T version now for about a week, and I wanted to talk about the differences that I've noticed. All right, so let's talk with the big one that's been all the buzz on the internet, the processor. The US version, which is the black guy here on the right, has a 1.5 gigahertz Qualcomm processor, whereas the European version here on the left has a slower clock speed, but certainly faster 1.4 gigahertz Exynos Cortex A9 processor. We'll talk a little bit about what that difference means. So a little slower clock speed on the European version, but definitely translates to faster speeds, and we'll get to that in just a moment. The big difference here, though, is LTE. This guy is rocking LTE. Unfortunately, you can't see that I've got it up there. I've got it in airplane mode because inevitably, whenever I film a phone that I'm actually using, it always rings while filming it. But it does have support for LTE with, of course, HSPA Plus as the fallback. The European version just has HSPA Plus. All right, let's talk a bit about the design because things are very different here on the way they look. Both are available in black or white, so don't let the color sway you. But the big differences here are the home buttons. And we saw this with the Galaxy S2 and then the US version of the Galaxy S2. I love this giant home button. All it does is take you home, and it's flanked by two capacitive buttons left or right that'll show up when you go ahead and tap them. So you can see there's a back button and a menu button. I really like when I'm using the phone to have a big physical home button. I know where it is. I can use it by feel. I don't have to look down to use it. The US version here says goodbye to that. Let's choose it rather, and goes to 4 capacitive buttons down here at the bottom. You can see what those look like. So you have to sort of pull your head down, look down, find the home button, and go back. They are backlight illuminated, and they'll disappear in just a moment. You can sort of see where the buttons are when they're off, but if you're in a dark atmosphere and you can't see that little bit of an outline, you definitely have to touch the screen to light up those buttons to see it. So I really prefer that one singular button. That's not the only difference here from a design standpoint. If we go ahead and flip these guys on over, notice that the European version, you can see the reflection, has a shiny black, whereas the US version has sort of a textured feel to it. It is not shiny, more of a, I wouldn't call it matte, but it's got definitely has a bit of a texture. Galaxy Note branding is right there. There's no Galaxy Note branding here. If we go ahead and pull off the back, things start to get a little more interesting as well once you get the back covers. Go ahead and peel the back cover off this guy, and it's packing something interesting. Look at that. And we ran a whole article on this. That is NFC, although AT&T and Samsung have not enabled it. Hopefully it'll be coming with some sort of mobile payment system in the near future. But NFC is here on the US version, but does not live on the European version. Go ahead and try and snap those backs into place. They both, however, share a sort of very flimsy Samsung plastic back that we've seen on a lot of their phones. Go ahead and snap all that back. All right, so flip these guys back over. Let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the differences. We'll go home there and go home back here. All right, so both are running Samsung's proprietary version of Android, TouchWiz. They're running the same version of Android as Gingerbread. But things are a little bit different here. One of the features that I use the most on TouchWiz, and you can say what you want about TouchWiz, whether you like it or dislike it, but they do come stock on the phones, this little pull down. If I go ahead and pull that down, I've got the option to switch into silent mode. I really like that. If I go ahead and pull this guy down, that silent mode is replaced with airplane mode on the US. A very small difference, but one that I definitely miss having. So we'll go ahead and pull that guy Back up, some other small differences here. There's the messaging icon right there, and there's a messaging icon right there. They are a little bit different, so something to bear in mind. All right, so I mentioned that difference in processor. We've got the Qualcomm chipset at 1.5 versus the Exynos chipset at 1.4. How does that translate to speed? Well, let's go ahead and talk about quadrants. I know that's what most people want to see. What quadrant does, it's a benchmark for mobile phones. May not be the most accurate portrayal of speed or graphics prowess, but it's what I use in all my videos. And this is where you see a huge difference. Let's start with the US version. The US version had a score of 1,722, whereas the European version here with that lower clock speed chipset had a score of 4,559. That is a staggering difference. You know, they're looking at 1,722 versus 4,559. So what does that difference mean in real-world usage? For me, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. However, if you're the person that likes to really tinker with the phone, you want to talk about overclocking, what you can do as far as multitasking in games, that is a really big difference. And from what I've seen when you put games head-to-head, they both look decent. Things are a little bit faster, though, on the European version. Even while running the quadrant test, the European version finished up a good 20 seconds before the US. So while the end user probably won't notice that much of a difference, if you're a real power user and you need to get the most out of your phone, it may be worthwhile to consider the European version. Battery-wise, we're looking at a 2,500 milliamp hour battery versus a 2,600 milliamp hour battery in the European version, which seems a bit odd that they would make it 100 off, but indeed it is. So as you decide which one's right for you, a few things to consider. First, LTE. Is having LTE important to you? For me, it absolutely was. While HSPA plus speeds on the European version were fast, LTE, at least in Southern California, has been blazing fast, probably because not many people are on it, but I've really appreciated having that. I do miss the design of the European Galaxy S2. I love that home button. Battery life on both has been actually outstanding. I can generally get through a full day, and that's about 7 in the morning, take it off the charger, to about 11:30 midnight with about 40 to 50% of battery left, which is impressive. I use the phones quite a bit. I haven't noticed a drop off in battery though, even with the slightly smaller US version, and LTE has proven to not be that big of a battery sucker. However, if you really want the optimal performance and you want arguably one of the most powerful smartphones currently available, the European version is going to be the way to go. You are going to want to consider cost though, as you consider which phone is going to be right for you. The European version is going to set you back $600-700 depending on where you go. Depending on where you get the Galaxy Note or whether or not there's a deal going on, you're looking at about $300-ish on contract, and about the same price if you want to get it without contract from AT&T. So I'm going to let you guys decide which version is right for you. For now, the European or the US AT&T version is what I'm carrying in my pocket as my daily phone. Which one do you want? Which one's best for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. I'm John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.